Any news in the morning?
Weather.
And traffic.
Miss an hour, miss a lot.
What's happening in our world is important.
Waking you early and getting you ready for your day.
It's a nice way to start my day.
News in the morning. Start your day off right.
Rob and Bernie on Acadiana's Morning News.
The opioid crisis continues to grow, and one of those voices behind measures to help solve it is our own Senator Bill Cassidy. He joins us on the phone now. Good morning. How are you?
I am great. How are y'all?
Well, I'm happy I'm not in D.C. Are you guys still dealing with snow today?
Well, we're dealing with snow, but, that's no big deal. My gosh. We in South Louisiana hardly ever see snow, and we deal with it better than Washington, D.C. does. So
that is par for the course. I wanted to have you on. Obviously, we got yesterday, so I'll have to ask you about the proposed budget, the $1.3 trillion that looks like it will be debated and kind of the topic of conversation going into the weekend. Your thoughts on that before we jump into opioids?
It's a 2,200-page bill that we've not been given time to read. That's not the way to do a budget. I can promise you there's things in there which, if you knew about it, they're offensive. The fact that they're revealing it at the last minute makes me wonder just what's in there.
Yeah.
So unless I have a chance to review it, I have to be a no, not because it certainly has some good things, but it's a 2,200-page bill, and with 24 hours to review, it's just impossible.
I've got to be honest. After we had sort of a similar situation when the healthcare law, but was then later known as Obamacare, was passed, and it was a whole, what I think Nancy Pelosi, the words that are going to haunt her forever is pass it now and read it later. I thought we were going to move on from this sort of thing, but it seems like we get right up to the 11th hour where we face, government funding and still no real answers.
There's a workaround. Obviously, it is on the interest of some to delay until a deadline, in which case you have to rush through things that otherwise would not pass. On the other hand, we can do a 2-week, what is called continuing resolution, to give folks a chance to look at it over the next 2 weeks, and nothing would be lost.
Yeah.
So I'm very disturbed about the process, just like I was about Obamacare process. It needs to be fixed.
And it just seems so odd because it's Republicans who have the majority in all of this. Who's to blame for this delay?
The process is to blame. Obviously, you need 60 votes, and so it gives Democrats a leverage. Chuck Schumer was a master negotiator. He's been looking to get billions for a tunnel between New Jersey and New York. The president has opposed, but he uses this deadline to leverage. Good for him. He's a great negotiator. It's just his priorities are different than mine.
Yeah.
If that is in there, what else is in there? Without the chance to review, I can't tell you. It's my responsibility to review. I take that responsibility very seriously.
All right. So at this point, you're a no unless you get a chance to review it. You would obviously be in favor of the continuing resolution.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about opioids. You have kind of an interesting look at this, and I would say far more experience in dealing, especially with the healthcare side, than most of your colleagues in the Senate. Is there a simple fix, number one, and where do we go to fix it?
There is not a simple fix. On the one hand, you have folks who do have chronic pain who need to have pain relief, and then on the other hand, you have folks who say they have chronic pain, but they're actually selling their pills on the street to addicts. And then you have folks, when you crack down on the ability to buy pills, that are turning to illegal drugs, which the Mexican cartels are happy to provide.
Yeah.
And so it's not a simple solution. On the other hand, that doesn't mean it can't be solved, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't work at it.
So, I know you, by all accounts, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the phone, very respectable physician, okay? However, you do have doctors who I've heard personal stories of patients who are either getting it against their will, getting prescriptions for opioids that they don't think they need, or, doctors who just continue to prescribe them. We know Louisiana has a problem with pain clinics and different things like that. There's been a bunch of legislation to kind of curb that, but the opioid problem continues to grow. Can we look at something on the healthcare level that would help to curb this in the short term?
Well, first, if you're a patient and you're uncomfortable with the medications that your doctor is prescribing, don't take them, are asked to see another physician. I had a terrible spine problem, and I was able to manage it for the 30 days I had it without taking opioids. I'm not unusual. There are just regimens that you can do that by. Now, there are docs who are so-called pill mills.
Yeah.
You go, you give them $500, they give you a handful of prescriptions. We've been pushing the Drug Enforcement Agency to look at these prescribing patterns and to more quickly crack down on these types of practices. I say that as a doc. You want to call those folks out, they give medicine a bad name. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, announced about a month ago they were going to take that advice. They're going to begin to use the data that's available and crack down on the doctors and the pharmacists that are overprescribing and overfilling.
So, you're not fighting this fight alone. Late last month, there was a bipartisan bill called the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, CARA, that had bipartisan support. It was a kind of a group effort. Where does that stand right now?
It's going to be passed. In fact, a portion of that will be in the Omnibus, this bill that we're about to pass. By the way, there's some good things in the Omnibus. I'm not disputing that. We spoke about that at the beginning. You just don't know what the bad things are.
Yeah.
But some of it will be incorporated in there. That's been a successful program. It gives money for specific ways that states and communities can intervene to benefit the treatment, the prevention, the recovery of opioid addiction. And so there is that effort. Ultimately, though, it's going to be leadership from the state and the community. If your state and community doesn't have good leadership to take these federal dollars and implement good programs, we're not going to have a solution.
We're joined by Senator Bill Cassidy, and as we're wrapping up for time, I want to ask about another bipartisan effort you were a part of, and that's the School Safety and Mental Health Services Improvement Act. Had a lot of support, bipartisan support, as I said, in the days and weeks shortly after the Parkland shooting. What's the status on this one? Obviously, we had another school shooting not far from Washington, D.C. this week. Is that something that's going to be included? And is the passion still there? Sometimes with these events, the further we get away from them, the less pressing the issue seems to be than right after. Is the passion still there to do something to improve the safety of schools?
I think the passion is still there. There will be legislation passed that helps schools harden themselves, so-called, where, for example, at Sandy Hook, Adam Lanza shot out a window because the door was locked. If you had glass that could not be shot out, he could not have gained entry.
Yeah.
So there will be resources made for schools to harden. That said, we have a pattern of adolescent and young adult men, almost always men, in fact, always men, who have recognized but untreated mental illness who are doing these terrible things. In the case of the guy in Florida, Cruz, he was actually released from school. Everybody knew he had a problem. There was never an intervention. So what we're trying to do is set up a system where if somebody is released from school, they're just not sent out there. Rather, they are evaluated and mental health services provided if they are required. Mm-hmm. Now, this isn't the answer for everything, but there's no one answer for everything.
Yeah, you got to start
this
somewhere.
Is one of the answers that can prevent problems.
All right, Senator Bill Cassidy, we appreciate your time. It is worth noting that in the Maryland shooting, the school resource officer is the one who shot back at the shooter after he was only able to shoot 2 people. Hey, Senator, appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you.